Okay, let's dive right in and talk about the modern workplace. We're going to bust some of the biggest myths out there, ideas that might be shaping how you think about your job, your boss, and even your own stress levels.
It feels like we're constantly swimming in advice on how to work better, doesn't it? But what if a huge chunk of it is, well, just plain wrong? We're talking about that endless merry-go-round of leadership fads, the idea that all stress is your enemy, and that dangerous belief that a smart team simply can't fail. Let's dig in and see what the research actually says. All right, first up, let's tackle leadership. The big myth here is the assumption that the newer and more complex a leadership theory sounds, the better it must be. I mean, look at this. Transformational, authentic, ethical, servant, charismatic. It really is a leadership jungle out there. Each new model gets rolled out, promising to be the one true key to unlocking your team's success. But here's where it gets really interesting. When researchers actually put all these different leadership styles under the microscope, they found huge overlaps. This number you see, 0.70, shows the statistical link between ethical and transformational leadership. To put that in simple terms, it means they're about 70% the same thing. They're so similar, they're practically just different labels on the same bottle. And this brings us right to a classic, super useful principle from science, Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the best one. So instead of chasing the latest buzzword, maybe the real secret is to just focus on the core, effective behaviors that have always defined good leadership, instead of just rebranding old ideas. Okay, let's switch gears and move to our next myth. This really common idea that all stress at work is your enemy and you should try to get rid of it at all costs. The research actually shows us a much more nuanced picture. It's not about all stress, it's about the type of stress. So on one side, you have what are called challenge stressors. Think of these like a good workout at the gym, things like taking on more responsibility or learning a new skill. Yeah, they're demanding, but they help you grow. On the other side, you've got hindrance stressors. This is stuff like office politics or not knowing what your role is. They're just obstacles. They drain you without any of the payoff. So this leads to a really important question, right? What's the tipping point? Why does a big demanding project feel like an exciting mountain to climb for one person, but a crushing weight for another? Well, it often boils down to a few key things. First, it's your own personal mindset. Do you tend to see stressful situations as a chance to step up, or as something that just wears you down? Second, predictability. A high-stakes demand that comes out of nowhere feels a whole lot different than one you've been able to plan for. And finally, and this one is huge, support. Just knowing your boss and your organization have your back can completely change the game. Now for a really dangerous myth, and this one's all about teamwork. It's the idea that if you just get a bunch of smart, talented people together in a room, they'll automatically make a brilliant decision. This image right here powerfully illustrates the catastrophic result of that myth. This is the 1986 launch of the Space Shuttle Challenger. This tragedy wasn't a failure of individual intelligence. It was a devastating failure of the group's decision-making process. The phenomenon behind tragedies like this is called groupthink. It's what happens when the social pressure to conform and just get along becomes so strong that it completely overrides critical thinking. People simply stop raising their concerns, even when they have serious life-or-death doubts. The good news is, groupthink isn't inevitable. There are very clear, structured ways to prevent it. We're talking about things like having leaders who actively encourage debate, creating a formal space for someone to play devil's advocate, bringing in outside experts whose whole job is to poke holes in your logic, and always holding a second chance meeting to rethink a big decision before it's final. Okay, this brings us to our final myth, and honestly, this one might be the most empowering one to bust. The belief that your job is this fixed, unchangeable thing, and you're just a passive passenger along for the ride. A really powerful concept called job crafting completely challenges that idea. It reframes you, the employee, as an active designer of your own work experience. It's all about proactively changing parts of your job, your tasks, your relationships, even how you think about your work to make it more engaging and meaningful for you. And look, this doesn't have to be some massive, dramatic overhaul. Job crafting can be as simple as proactively asking for more feedback so you feel a greater sense of control. It could be volunteering for that new project you've been eyeing to build new skills. Or, just as important, it can be about reducing demands, like strategically figuring out which optional meetings you can skip to avoid burnout. So, when you pull it all together, what's the big takeaway here? It's this. From leadership to stress to teamwork to your own role, the workplace is not just something that happens to you. Once you understand these hidden dynamics, you actually have the tools to actively make your work life better.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Based on everything we've just covered, what is one small change, one small act of job crafting that you're going to make this week to take back a little more control? Because really, a better work life often begins not with a giant leap, but with a single intentional step.